This is the true story of La Isla de las Muñecas, the island of the dolls located in the Xochimilco canals of Mexico City, and it's one of the most unsettling and eerie places in the world. In the 1950s, a man named Don Julian Santana Barrera decided to live in isolation on a small island in the canals, far from society. According to locals, Don Julian was a quiet, humble man who kept to himself. His life took a dark and disturbing turn when, one day, he discovered the body of a young girl floating in the canal near his island. No one knew how the girl had drowned. Some say she had wandered away from a nearby village. Others believe her death was the result of something far more sinister. What is certain is that this tragic event shattered Don Julian's peace. As the story goes, shortly after discovering the girl's body, Don Julian found a doll floating in the same waters. He believed it belonged to the deceased girl. Stricken with grief and fear that her spirit would haunt him, he hung the doll from a tree as an offering, hoping to appease her restless soul. Over time, Don Julian became obsessed with the idea that the girl's spirit was haunting him. He began collecting more dolls from the canals, garbage piles, and anywhere he could find them, hanging them from trees all over the island. Each doll, dirty and decayed, represented his attempt to keep the spirit at bay. The island became covered in dolls, some headless, others with missing limbs, all weathered by time and elements, their eyes staring blankly into nothingness. However, the more dolls he collected, the more disturbed Don Julian became. Neighbors and those passing by the island reported hearing whispers and eerie giggles coming from the trees at night. Some claimed to see the dolls moving, their eyes following anyone who dared to visit. The once quiet man was now completely obsessed with the island and the spirits he believed lived there. In 2001, after decades of living on the island, Don Julian was found dead in the exact spot where he claimed to have found the young girl's body. His death was ruled a drowning, but locals whispered that the spirits had finally taken him, just as they had the girl so many years before. Today, La Isla de las Muñecas still stands as a macabre monument to Don Julian's madness. The dolls, weather-beaten and decaying, hang from trees like eerie sentinels. Tourists and locals alike report strange feelings when they visit the island. An overwhelming sense of being watched, the sound of whispers in the wind, and dolls moving on their own. People who visit the island often leave with a lingering sense of unease, and some have even claimed to experience nightmares for weeks afterward. A few brave souls who spent the night there report hearing footsteps approaching them in the dark, only to find nothing there. Others have seen shadowy figures darting among the trees or felt unseen hands tugging at their clothes. Whether it's the isolated location, the disturbing sight of decaying dolls, or something more sinister lurking in the shadows, there's no denying the chilling atmosphere of La Isla de las Muñecas. What started as an innocent offering has turned into one of the most haunting and disturbing places on Earth. If you ever decide to visit, just remember, the island doesn't forget, and neither do its dolls.